A dead wizard wakes in a killer's body, and oppressed kingdoms tremble. Spoilers ahead for this Korean manhwa arc. Lepenhard once tried to protect non-human races with magic, power, and an empire of his own, but his old life ends under Tessrin's fists. Death does not release him. It drops him into Tessrin's younger body, giving him the strength of the man who destroyed him and the memories of the ruler who failed. Now every fight is more than a brawl. Every elf, dwarf, or orc he meets is proof that the world is still built on chains, fear, and human arrogance. And this time, he cannot only dream of freedom, he has to punch a road toward it. The road opens under a brutal desert sky, where a broken tower stands alone in the sand like a warning nobody survived long enough to explain. Then purple magic erupts upward, and a massive dragon-like creature rises from the ruin, turning empty wasteland into a death trap. The red-haired young fighter and the white-haired hooded girl are caught right in front of it, but they do not break. He moves first, throwing himself into the clash as the monster lunges through dust and magical force. The fight is messy, fast, and half buried in sand, but the immediate danger finally eases enough for the group to move on. The relief does not last. In the desert settlement ahead, the locals look poor, tense, and suspicious, while a noble house quietly pulls family duty into a darker warning. The desert fight keeps escalating, and now the red-haired fist fighter crashes through the battlefield with a hooded enemy who refuses to stay down. Bodies hit the sand, dark impacts burst open, and the surviving fighters watch as he rises with fire around him. Okay, this is where his old life and new body start blending together. He does not only rely on fists. He uses magic too, launching fire across the field while enemies hide behind purple barriers and regroup around a hooded leader. But the real pressure comes after the blasts fade. He argues with the surviving desert fighters, refusing to accept the bitter view they carry of the world. Then the focus shifts to blonde girls, one named Serenade El Alafina, and recognition twists into danger as a blade comes out. Soon after that, the red-haired martial artist crosses the desert with a blonde elf girl, and the journey turns painfully personal. He challenges the way she sees herself, refusing to treat her like a slave, a possession, or someone beneath him. That hits a nerve, because her pride is tangled with shame. Memories surface around a white-haired elf woman, an elder, and a past where survival seems to have demanded silence. Then the road leads to hidden elves, and, worse, to elves being transported or controlled by armed humans. A quiet rescue might have been easier, but he does something far more dangerous. He calls the elves out in public, provoking them with harsh words meant to cut through obedience. The blonde elf girl finally explodes at him, and that anger feels like the first crack in a locked door. The next crisis is not hidden in memory. It is burning in front of everyone. Flames swallow a desert-like fortress town while guards, refugees, and wounded people struggle through panic. The red-haired fighter moves with the blonde or white-haired young woman through the crowd, and the group gathers near firelight to decide what can still be saved. Nobody has clean answers. The danger may be tied to her power, to a risky plan, or to a force the panels only show through heat, light, and fear. Still, he accepts the path in front of him. Then the disaster shifts from ordinary flame into something stranger. A massive golden strike tears down from above, and green energy rises through him until it grows like a sacred tree. Now the town's survival seems tied to that wild burning tree. The story then turns inward, into memories of a blonde, elf-like woman and a name that hurts. Luann. She sees a huge tree, a cosmic-looking calamity, and figures from a past that feels bigger than one battlefield. Then the scene moves through camps and fighters preparing for another crisis, before jumping into a snowy northern attack where warriors defend a convoy or settlement from mounted enemies. After the battle, a strange purple cube appears, connected to voices or messages, and the mood becomes even more unsettling. In a grand hall, the blonde woman faces a man who somehow knows the name she thought was forgotten. That is the real wound, not the battle outside, but the possibility that someone understands a part of her history she may not be ready to face. Night falls, and a tense conversation unfolds between the blonde, elf-like woman, the red-haired man, and an elderly magical presence that feels tied to old knowledge. From there, the story pulls back into history. The kingdom of Hoenn, royal claims, battlefield pressure, and conflicts with neighboring powers. A young white-haired royal appears in a cold castle interior with a small black-haired girl, and when a hooded envoy arrives, she attacks to protect him. It does not work. The envoy stops her too easily, which tells you he is not there as a normal messenger. Then he makes the demand that changes the scale of the arc. He wants land independent of the Roa's kingdom, a place where elves, dwarves, and orcs can live freely. That is not a request. It is a political bomb. The party regroups at night in a cold settlement, and their next destination carries the weight of old legends. They discuss monsters, ancient forces, and the Blue Bear tribe, while green magical imagery and remembered threats suggest this road is tied to something much older than a simple journey. By daylight, the group crosses rocky wilderness toward tribal territory, and right when the path feels open, orc patrols appear. These are not random monsters thrown in for action. The narration frames them as unproven fighters roaming the wilds to earn the right to become true Blue Bear warriors. The fight ends quickly, with swordplay, physical force, and a purple sleep spell shutting down the charge. But the message is clear. To enter this territory, strength is not optional. It is the language everyone speaks. The road brings the group to a desert city marked by violence, suspicious travelers, and the kind of silence that tells you something already went wrong. The red-haired protagonist watches hooded figures carefully while the party moves closer, and inside the city they find damaged ground, fallen bodies, and scattered gear. Then a massive axe-wielding warrior appears. He is built like a wall, the kind of opponent who does not need subtlety, because every swing can end the conversation. Ceres, the blonde swordswoman, steps forward instead of letting the others answer first. Her duel starts with close-range sword and axe exchanges, then sharpens into white-blue sword energy, broken weapons, and flying blades. And right when it looks like the clash has found its shape, weapons begin falling from above, turning the duel into a cliffhanger. Snow takes over the battlefield next, and a blonde or light-haired fighter faces a huge horned beast in a storm of ice and debris. Blue-white energy wraps around the fighter as he dodges, counters, and drives the creature back with repeated impacts. The watching companions see enough to understand this is not ordinary strength. After the beast is pushed down or forced back, the group regroups, but the battle only grows larger. A purple demonic warrior appears with an aura that feels heavier than the monster before it, and a blue-armored swordsman answers with icy power of his own. Their clash is violent, bright, and dangerous for everyone nearby. Purple pressure meets blue force, and even as the blue fighter keeps pressing forward, the allies around him are still inside the danger zone. The Blue Bear tribe's rite of combat turns the conflict into formal violence, and Russ takes the stage with a technique that feels unfair in the best way. His Phantom Divide creates aura-based afterimages, splitting the battlefield until his opponent cannot tell what is real anymore. The surrender comes almost immediately, giving the Blue Bear tribe another victory. Then Leifenhart Wald and Terry steps forward, and the mood changes again. People notice his body first, because he looks like a warrior who belongs in a ritual arena. Then Champion Kalkin arrives, a massive chieftain who has just been hunting a Snake King beast and now wants to challenge him directly. Leifenhart accepts. Watch what he does next. He opens with improved sleep, and Kalkin simply falls asleep standing up. This stretch matters because Leifenhart's second life is turning from personal redemption into structure. He is not only rescuing people one at a time. He is testing whether oppressed races can stand, organize, claim land, and defend that claim under the rules of a hostile world. The elf girl's anger, the burning tree, the political demand for an independent fief, and the Blue Bear ritual all point at the same question. Can freedom survive after the dramatic rescue ends? The answer is not settled. Humans still control armies and borders. Tribes still demand proof through combat. Even allies carry trauma that cannot be fixed by one speech. But Leifenhart now has strength, magic, and people beginning to move around his impossible goal. Subscribe for the next recap, because Kalkin just woke up, and the real warrior-mage duel is only beginning.